So, hello again. I won't repeat what Yolanda said. So, I will start with a short introduction to the House of Orpheus, which is familiar to most of you, I imagine, but it is necessary, I think, so that you can see what follows with the work we are now doing in the house that will be presented by. Over the years, an area of about 1,200 square meters was brought to light, comprising a complex of structures with different phases dating from the early 3rd century BC to the 3rd, 4th century AD, all going under the all-inclusive name of House of Orpheus. Unfortunately, none of these structures is well preserved. Systematic stone robbing followed the collapse and abandonment of the house in the earthquakes of the 4th century. Worse fate awaited the remains, especially in the early 20th century, when the British Royal Air Force was stationed right on top of the site and dug deep cesspits and trenches looking for building material. Plowing added to the destruction, especially on the western limit of the site. And finally, the late Kyriakos Nikolaou's numerous pits in search of the Hercules mosaic that was known to be somewhere in the area have disturbed irreparably the ancient stratigraphy. The House of Orpheus itself is the last phase of a luxurious residence dating to the late 2nd, early 3rd century AD. To this belong, of course, the mosaic of Orpheus that gave its name to the house, as well as another mosaic with interesting panels of Hercules and an Amazon, both of unusual iconography. Myriads of fragments bear witness to the rich frescoes that once decorated the walls of the house, and some first attempts at reconstruction, which you see on the right, are encouraging and also demonstrate the high quality of this material. The wealth of the house is also reflected by the fact that it was provided with private baths, not by any means a common feature in the domestic architecture of Roman Paphos. As one would expect in such wealthy quarters of the city, the movable finds, despite their frequent lack of stratigraphy, are many and very impressive. Practically every type of object has been found, all except marble statuary, and I have a theory explaining this absence, which we can discuss later on. Exceptional amongst the finds are a unique for Cyprus thin-walled marble pyxes on the left, and if you know of any parallels for these, I would be grateful to have them. And of course, the excavation brought to light hundreds, not to say thousands, of fragments of lamps, amongst which the most important is the polylichnon you see on the right, with representations of Egyptian deities and the inscription Ileo Serapis. The polylichnon might be related to some kind of domestic cult, and not far from its find spot, there are remains of this kind of activity. You see a small altar, and in front of it, the beginning of a deep deposit of pottery. A similar association, cult association, may be attributed to some, but certainly not all, of the many terracotta figurines found in the house. The excavations have also added a new set of clay hot water bottles, some of much finer quality of clay and greater detail than the famous ones in the Paphos Museum. The new group also includes completely new forms, like the ones you see at the bottom of the slide. On the left, one almost certainly intended for a female breast, and on the right, bottom right, of course, one which is used in a completely different from all the rest. Instead of being applied onto the body, in this case, it was placed on the floor and the foot was placed on top of it. Several groups of finds, such as the mosaics and the terracottas, have been studied and published. The late Danielle Parks started studying the coins, and her work is now being carried out, continued by Marie-Christine Marseillesi. Peter Cousins is studying the myriads of glass fragments, as well as the selenite fragments, of which we have several in the house. There is an abundance of absolutely vast and intimidating amount of pottery sherds. The amphoras are being studied by Vanvitelli, but the rest of the pottery is still looking for someone to undertake its study. Finally, given the degree of stone robbing, a relatively small number of architectural elements have been found, at least in their complete form. Most of them are unstratified in the loose rubble. Some were used as building material in the last phase of the building, while during the last excavation seasons in trenches, the excavation of which has not been completed, a lot of fallen architectural elements were found where they fell in antiquity, crushing some of the inhabitants, or anyway, visitors to the site. And the architectural elements bring me to the main part of this and the following presentation. So I call on Monika Rekowska, who will talk about the architectural database, elements database.
Thank you, Dimitri. From the very beginning of the Polish project, the documentation work undertaken had a twofold character, relating to the excavated area as a whole and concerning particular architectural blocks with decoration. Thanks to laser scanning, digital ground photogrammetry, and aerial photographs, we obtained comprehensive documentation that allowed us to update the overall plan and propose the basic stages of development, in the analysis of which the architectural elements should play an important role. During the last campaign, we managed to inventory over 120 items, which include Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and simplified Corinthian capitals, column drums, and some bases attributable to them, numerous cornices, mainly of the type with Stravicello modillions, a few fragments of friezes architraves, including some belonging to portals, and many fragments of screens, all in local stone. In many cases, they have been dismantled from the walls of the late phases of the complex, where they had been reused after partial chiseling to reduce them to regular ashlars. Only in some cases, the architectural elements were found where they had fallen, following one of the earthquakes that hit the city. The circumstances is particularly evident in the southern sector of the building, which was probably abandoned and not rebuilt. We decide, now it's problem with, sorry, I have to wait for another slide, which is not, okay. So we decided that all the information, measurements, description, graphic files, as well as serving the needs of the analysis, would be used for the creation of a database based on the new orthophoto plan. For different reasons, we decided not to use any really GIS software, but we programmed the application in the Godot system. Why such a choice? There are three main reasons. First, cost. It is a free and open source system which is not subject to any legal or financial restrictions when it comes to create and distributing content made in it. Second, its comfort is a multi-platform system, which means that the application can be exported and can work as a desktop application in Windows, Linux, a web application, as well as on mobile devices, tablets, and phones. Thanks to this, we do not have any technological restrictions in the way of dissemination. Finally, is effectiveness. Godot is a very efficient programming environment regarding graphics. Ultimately, the application will also support 3D models, which is particularly important to us because we have several dozen scans of architectural details. Building our own browser for 3D models will allow us to become independent from external systems such as Sketchfab, which have several drawbacks. Creating our own browser allows us to design functions that exactly match the needs of a specific type of object, in our case, architectural details. Finally, we obtained exactly what we wanted, the database tailored to our needs and easy to use, and the application can be used both online and offline, and significantly, it is designed in such a way that any information can be accessed in 2-3 mouse clicks. It's a relatively simple database on the form of a text file loaded into the application. And apart from the text entry, each item is assigned a separate folder containing all the graphic sources. So the application was created to is designed to visualize the location of the object on the plan and then to sort them according to selected features. And let me show you the features that we can also differentiate in colors. As well as give very quick access to all information, all text information and graphic files. So let me show you the pattern of the information we can have. Let's start with this. Due to the fact that all objects are of the same type, we have just one record pattern for all of them. It consists of 24 elements that define individual features as object type, georeferencing the height above sea level, dimensions, state of preservation, coating, mason's marks, dating, etc. Now I would like to present few of them, few objects like capital. And here we have one of the Corinthian capital with another one. Let me show you another one, which was the part of the same, the upper part of the same capital. When we have renderings and pictures and also drawings, so every graphic materials that we have. Let me show you another capital, the Doric one, like this. And finally, the finest, the magnificent capital, Ionic capital. Some pictures, some drawings, and I would like also to show you that's the first attempt to do this browser for 3D models that will be loaded into application, but it is not done yet. So just to show you the scans that we have. The database is not yet completed. objects in storage at the museum are lacking. The search criteria are to be completed. Ultimately, in addition to the type of object, it will be possible to sort according to other yardsticks, such as dating, coating, Mason's mass, features that can be helpful in further analysis. After all work is completed, the database will be published in open access for use of all interested